A flower yet to bloom, Cereza. A beautiful young girl born from a bond between the Lumen Sages of Light and the Umbra Witches of Darkness. As relations between these two clans are strictly forbidden, Cereza's birth resulted in her being labeled an outcast, scorned, and mocked by the other Umbra. In time, Cereza began to be tortured by nightmares of how powerless she was to help her mother, who had cared so deeply for Cereza. Becoming strong enough to one day help her became Cereza's one motivation for getting through each day. She cherishes the stuffed cat toy her mother gave her, which she named Cheshire. Never leaving her side, Cheshire often listens to stories of the lonely girl. Tormented by the ridicule of her clan, Cereza ran off to live with a witch named Morgana, who resides just outside Avalon Forest. Morgana saw vast potential in Cereza despite her youth, and began training her rigorously in the Umbran arts. Though a strict teacher, Cereza can feel a certain kindness from Morgana, and eventually has come to trust her like she would her mother. One night, a young boy appears in Cereza's dreams, telling her that deep inside the forbidden Avalon Forest, there sleeps something that could aid Cereza to find the power she seeks. She decides to believe the boy and heads off to the forest. After being chased by a pack of malevolent fairies, Cereza attempts to summon a demon, and the medium inadvertently becomes her own stuffed animal. Cereza decides to name the demon Cheshire after the toy it possesses, and the two began their strange and fateful journey. At the onset of their travels, the two realize they can very easily rub each other the wrong way. Cheshire often irritates Cereza by highlighting her inexperience. The last straw is when Cheshire gives a vigorous slash to Cereza's mother, causing her to disappear. The vision of Rosa is an illusion created by the fairies, but the shock to Cereza is real. And yet, after going their separate ways, Cereza realizes that her strength does have limits, and she has come to rely on Cheshire. She realizes that she appreciates Cheshire and begins to be able to see things from his perspective. The two eventually reach an understanding, and afterwards they develop true bonds of friendship. The relationships Cereza forges during her time in Avalon leave her with unforgettable memories that will undoubtedly help shape her into a confident witch able to pursue her dream of becoming a powerful Umbra with a newfound determination. This chapter of her journey having now reached its end, Cereza looks one last time at the house she trained with Morgana. Vowing to one day become a witch worthy of her mother, she steps off into the moonlight. A demon trusting only power. Cheshire, a demon summoned by Cereza on the night of the full moon. Traditionally, Umbra witches use their hair as a medium to control their demons, but the ritual proved too difficult for Cereza, and the demon somehow found himself in Cereza's stuffed toy. The demon, humiliated by such a vessel, demanded to be returned to Inferno immediately, but the inexperienced Cereza had no idea how to help, and being bound to the magical energy of whoever summoned him, he realized he was unable to separate himself from her. Reluctantly, he agrees to accompany her just until they find a way to send him home. Having been just newly born in Inferno when called, he had yet to be given a name. Cereza decides to simply call him Cheshire, after the name of the stuffed toy he inhabits. With his bone-crunching fangs and razor-sharp claws, Cheshire has confidence in his strength and an itch to prove his superiority to others, jumping into battle whenever the opportunity arises. He also just so happens to have a notorious sweet tooth, especially for infernal fruit and Avalon drops. With his keen nose, he can usually discern any Avalon drops Cereza might be hiding, and sometimes nabs a quick snack when she's distracted. His demon nature would normally make him care only for destruction, but be it due to the hugs and affection that Cereza shows his medium, he feels an inexplicable fuzziness towards Cereza he can't understand. At first, his teamwork with Cereza is shaky. Cheshire is especially frustrated with the cowardice she shows during the first encounter with the Jabberwock, and even though it was a trap created by the fairies, attacking the illusion of Cereza's mother sends a shock to Cereza, so great a significant rift is born between them, sending them on their separate ways. Though not one to prefer the company of others, his time apart from Cereza gives him a chance to reflect on their journey and fills him with strange feelings of concern and sorrow, both emotions demons were assumed unable to experience. After watching the bravery Cereza is capable of during his rescue, and the care she shows sacrificing her hair to heal his wounds, Cheshire finally begins to accept Cereza as someone he relies on, and a bond between the two grows. With Cereza, Cheshire is able to form an irreplaceable bond of friendship most demons never experience. As of now, he is probably thrashing around Inferno, going wherever those brilliant claws lead him. Though he still might not be able to admit it, surely he is someday hoping for a faithful reunion. Cereza's strict teacher, Morgana. A solitary Umbra witch living an unimposing life near the edge of Avalon Forest, displaced far from the rest of her clan. A master of the Umbran arts, her skills in magic greatly exceed those of the other witches, but she cut ties with her clan and moved to her secluded home ages ago. Her reasons for doing so, an unspoken mystery. Though usually avoiding all contact with the outside world, she invited the practically orphaned Cereza to come live with her, and has since made Cereza her pupil, training her rigorously. Typically thought of as extremely strict and largely unpleasant, just her gaze is enough to send chills down the spine of its receiver, yet she saw potential in Cereza, and her stern training has been effective in producing exemplary results from Cereza in remarkable time. Cereza has in turn learned to trust Morgana despite her seemingly cold ways. Not one to ever lose herself to emotion, everything she does appears perfectly calculated. This extends to the minions she summons from Inferno as well. She excels at their use, but they are tools to do her bidding, nothing more. She reprimands Cereza thoroughly for disobeying her and entering Avalon Forest, but she promises to find a way to help and uses her magic to watch over and communicate with Cereza. Her true identity is the mother of the fairy prince Lukaon. Even Cereza, who had lived with Morgana for some time, was unaware of Morgana's past. Long ago, during a dispute for the fairy kingdom, Morgana was forced to use her magic to transfer Lukaon's spirit to a wolf in order to hide him from the usurping fairies. Despite her efforts, the fairies were able to get away with Lukaon's physical body. In the confusion, Morgana herself was able to escape to the outside of the forest, where the fairies' powers are unable to reach. But to protect the body the fairies stole, she was required to continuously cast a spell that would prevent her from either moving further away from the forest or going back inside it. Unable to do any more by herself, Morgana began to train Umbra witches still young and pure in heart, so she may eventually trick them to go into the forest. There she planned to have them find Lukaon so they may sacrifice their demon to save him. Her desperate wish to save her son gradually disfigured her soul into doing the unforgivable. Looking at her actions, it may be hard to tell if any humanity remained inside her at all. Yet as she collapses to the ground, defeated by Cereza and Cheshire, in her arms lay the gift of violets Cereza had given her. The majestic white protector, the white wolf, a wolf dwelling in Avalon, with a mane white like winter snow. The white wolf guide you. Just like the boy in Cereza's dream said, the wolf appears before Cereza and Cheshire as if to lead them through the forest. Effortlessly evading each of Cheshire's initial attempts to slash at him, it seems that this nimble movement is the reason he is able to survive the dangerous Avalon forest in the first place. Somehow aware of the location of the elemental cores, he appears before Cereza to show her where they rest. Inside the white wolf there is revealed to be the spirit of Lukaon, the true successor to the fairy kingdom, who was forced to escape there following a dispute for the throne. As noble as the prince he has struggled to protect and help all of the innocent who have somehow wandered into Avalon. While doing this, he has come across a fair number of young Umbra witches, which he finds somewhat puzzling, but he works with the girls to try and help them escape Avalon. The only way he can think of for them to accomplish this is for the girls to sacrifice their demon to restore his true power. Alas, every girl yet has met a tragic end before they can finalize their plan, which pains him greatly. After Lukaon's spirit left the wolf's body to return to its own, the wolf simply reverted to its natural self and disappeared into the forest. The boy with a proposition, Lukaon, a curious boy who enters Cereza's dreams and invites her to the forbidden land of Avalon. Once Cereza enters the forest, he appears before her again in an ethereal form. He promises Cereza a great power if she will only destroy the elemental cores that sleep in the forest, breaking the seal that has been placed on him. Meeting Cereza from time to time along her journey, the two slowly learn about each other and their common goal of each wishing to reunite with their mother. This similarity, along with his handsome face, makes Cereza realize she might have just a tiny crush on Lukaon. He was born from the love between an Umbra witch and the previous fairy king who ruled the fairy kingdom. His father was a pacifist who wished to do away with many of the cumbersome traditions of the past and envisioned an Avalon where fairies and humans could live together side by side. Lukaon, sharing the blood of both, was meant to serve as the symbol that would unite these groups together. But one day there was an insurgence led by a scheming fairy who succeeded in dethroning the king, with Lukaon's own life in danger. In a last-minute attempt to save her son, Lukaon's mother transferred his spirit inside the white wolf and he escaped into the forest. Lukaon's body was also just barely saved due to his mother's magic, but the fairy insurgents managed to get a hold of it and sealed it away deep in the forest. Releasing the seal would require the life of a demon born on the night of a full moon. Lukaon has found many young witches lost in the forest whom he has tried to persuade to help him, guiding them with the white wolf. Lukaon's reasons for doing this were never only to save himself. He simply wanted to see the girls released from the forest safely. Unbeknownst to him, it was his very own mother who had tricked these girls into Avalon in the first place. Even not having reached full maturity, there exists inside him truly phenomenal power. After having his seal finally released, he awakens his abilities he inherited from his father, the great fairy king. Seeing Cheshire as nothing but a tool for his ends, he finds himself in confrontation with Cereza. But having witnessed the bond that is formed between Cereza and her demon, he reconsiders his own actions. In his last moments, he tries pleading to Morgana to remove the hatred from her heart and not have others suffer for his own sake. He then finally falls to eternal rest, cradled softly in her arms. The self-proclaimed king. Puca, an unsettling figure who surfaces from the shadows, then dissolves within them just as quickly. He can command many of the fairies of Avalon, and seems to have interest in Cereza and Cheshire's whereabouts. His name is Puca, and he claims himself to be the king of the fairy kingdom. He is bent on complete domination of Avalon and commands an army of fairies in order to accomplish this. Being neurotically cautious, he orders lower fairies to constantly patrol the forest for any invaders and extinguish them upon sight, no matter how helpless or innocent they may be. He dons a cape several times taller than his own height and acts overly haughty to anyone in his presence, albeit with a peculiar way of speaking. Not one to fight his own battles, he prefers instead to create strategies for how to eliminate his opposition. A talented user of fairy magic, he has succeeded in creating an illusion of an angel affinity that he can control to his own will. His powers should not be underestimated. Originally a researcher serving under the former fairy king, Puca deciphered many human writings and in turn was able to create numerous inventions for the kingdom. He showed the talent of a brilliant scientist. The elemental cores also happened to be of Puca's design, and their introduction into the fairy society changed it radically. He was praised for his contributions to the kingdom, but he continued to seek power with an obsession and eventually started to devise a plan to overthrow Avalon. Once the Fairy King revealed his son would be a human boy, Puca used this to create unease within the Fairy Kingdom, building an army that he would lead to bring the kingdom to its downfall. He had hoped to acquire Lukaon's immense power for himself, but having his spirit hidden and bodyguarded by Morgana's magic, his only remaining option was to create a seal on the body with the elemental cores that would prevent Lukaon from ever recovering it. And once he finally does obtain Lukaon's power, he immediately thinks of taking his plans for conquest outside of Avalon, only to have his life snuffed out by a single crushing blow from Morgana, who had been waiting for the moment patiently. Cereza's loving mother, Rosa, an Umbra witch unparalleled in skill, thought to possibly be the strongest in the entire history of the clan, mother of Cereza. Falling in love with a Lumen sage, she broke the sacred vows of the Umbra and bore a child with him, resulting in her eternal imprisonment. She has never revealed why she would go against Umbran teachings and have forbidden relations with the Lumen, but she has accepted her isolation without the slightest resistance, despite all of the power she possesses. This has led many to think she understood and agreed to the consequences of her actions before even taking them. Some of the Umbra sympathize with her plight, overlooking her daughter Cereza sneaking to her cell or even finding chances for the two to meet. Cereza's precious stuffed toy was made by Rosa from whatever she could gather. Before being moved to an even further prison, she would often sing lullabies as Cereza would rest against the steel bars of her cell, showing nothing but the deepest maternal love for her precious daughter. Cereza's best friend, Jeanne, a young witch undergoing formal training in the Umbran arts, her skills already far surpass witches of her age. and she continues to master new arts at an astounding pace. Some say her strict, serious demeanor makes her seem a bit cold, but she is extremely loyal and cares deeply for those she trusts. She feels competitive towards Cereza, but she also sees her as a good friend, whereas her peers may find Cereza's unorthodox training under a reclusive witch to be unsightly. Jeanne recognizes Cereza's true power and heart and approaches her as an equal. A wisp boy, Colm. A wisp boy Cereza meets along her journey. Seeing him distraught, Cereza stops to talk to him and learns many of his friends have been wisp-napped by the fairies. Colm's worries for his friends supersede any inhibition he may have had towards a stranger like Cereza and pleads to her to help. As wisps are often said to be the wandering souls of those who have died in the forest, Colm's kindness is most likely something inherited from his former life. Most of the wisps see Colm as an unofficial leader they trust to organize their hidden community. He lives with the other wisps in a hideaway he has helped make with trash collected from the fairies' trash heap. Most of his days he makes brave exertions to collect materials to help expand the hideaway, carefully avoiding fairies in the process. He serves as chief editor for the Wisp Weekly, a newsletter he puts together consisting of snippets of useful information and other writings collected from wisps across the forest. His aim for the weekly is to hopefully help wisps in places he might not even know about. Though its contents are relatively simple, reading each issue has become a highly valued tradition for wisps who have little escape from the countless dangers in their life in Avalon. Your Guide to Avalon, Ignis, a mysterious figure who appears suddenly before Cereza, introducing herself simply as one who knows about the goings-on in the forest. She does seem well versed in the ways of Avalon and tries to provide Cereza with what guidance she can. She seems to have something of a personal vendetta against the fairies, which is likely linked at least partially to her reasons for wanting to help Cereza. Her true identity is one of the oldest wisps in Avalon. She has undoubtedly been through much to have survived through the treacherous times of Avalon, which has given her a more weathered appearance compared to the other wisps. She knows of less trodden paths even the fairies have not discovered, and just about every shortcut the forest has to offer. She will gladly impart this wisdom to any travelers who might find it useful. As a wisp, her frail form does not have the strength to contend with the fairies, but she always will lend a helping hand to those lost in the forest, and shows an especially keen interest in any young witches she may come across. She is always calm and focused, never letting the fairies intimidate or get the best of her. Because of this, many of the wisps think she must have been someone of considerable power in her previous life. Long ago, a small band of thieves on a quest for power invaded Avalon, searching for the fairy kingdom's hidden treasures. A young witch of promising potential was sent to the forest to circumvent them, but legend says that ultimately neither her nor the thieves ever made it back out of the forest. Since that day, a powerful barrier was cast around the forest, allowing only those of pure heart to enter. The event served as a catalyst that would have many clamor for better relations between fairies and humans, which is likely to have enabled the first human queen in Fairy Kingdom history. There are rumors the witch from that time is still alive somewhere in the forest, yet what connections may have with Ignis, if any, is unproven.